Hey smugglings, what is happening? This is going to be a video response to Donald Mackerel Gaming, who recently went over some of his favourite PlayStation exclusives of all time. And that's what I'm going to be doing here in this video. I'm going to be talking about my 20 favourite PlayStation exclusives of all time. So that is what I'm going to be discussing. Fairly happy with the list that I've got here for these games. Few caveats before we start. I'm going to keep it to one game per series, so I'm not going to be including multiple entries in the same series for the sake of variety and to keep it entertaining for you smugglings. I'm going to keep it like this. And the other caveat is that there's no particular order until we get to number 5, I believe. So until we get to that point, they're in no particular order. But when we get to the top 5, those are my absolute favorite PlayStation exclusives of all time. Currently. So this could change in the future, but this is currently how the list is looking. So without further ado, let's go to number 20, which is The Last Guardian. This is a game that I have a lot of history with, as I'm a massive fan of Eco and Shadow Colossus, the games from the developer that they had done previously. Absolutely adored those games, and they will possibly show up later on this list. Who knows? But love those games and was really looking forward to The Last Guardian. It was announced in 2008, I believe, at E3 when I was a wee smug, and was looking forward to it so much. It looked amazing, had this massive open world to it, and it looked absolutely incredible. And I could not wait to get my hands on it. 8 years later, I would actually be able to play it. 8 years later is when I actually was able to play it, and finally got it, and it wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great, and it's the game I've anticipated the most in my entire life, and still a very good game. I think I'm getting softer on it over time. I think my appreciation for it is growing over time. I think distance is helping quite a lot with that, and had to include on this list. And I'm still a massive fan of the developer, now known as Gen Design. They were previously called Team Eco when they were working with Sony, but they're now called Gen Design. And I'm still a massive fan of them, but had to give them a spot on this list with The Last Guardian at number 20. Number 19 is Nier Automata. Now, Nier Automata is the second game in the Nier series, and I wanted to include Nier Replicant on here because that's the game that impacted me more, but unfortunately it was released for other consoles at the time of release. I know that Nier Automata has now come to other consoles, but at the time of release it was a PlayStation exclusive, so it was only on PlayStation, so it's eligible to be on Smoggy's list. So I included it here, and Nier Automata is a very good game, very weird game, very competent action RPG that tells an amazing story like Nier Replicant, but they are very loosely related to each other. There's not much that's connected them apart from the design of the world and some character threads. But I had to include it on this list. Very good game, Nier Automata. Recommend it to everyone who hasn't played it yet. And you'll have to play it multiple times to get the real ending, as is the case with the Nier game. So, had to include on this list. That is Nier Automata. Number 18 is The Bouncer. So that is this brawler from Squaresoft before they became Square Enix. It was a brawler that was released in 2001. And it was a technical showpiece for the PlayStation 2. It was a really beautiful game at the time. And you might be mistaken for initially thinking it is a Final Fantasy game by the design of the characters, because they all look like Final Fantasy characters, but then you realize that the game is actually a brawler and not a turn-based JRPG. But I love The Bouncer. It's not a game that's very well loved, but it holds a special place in my heart, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I love playing as a kid, and I think it's got a really great soundtrack as well, and I thought the gameplay was quite good. and I do like the Bouncer quite a lot. So that is the Bouncer, number 18. Number 17 is Eternal Ring. Another early PS2 game. And this one was a launch title for the PS2 in 2000 and was a dungeon crawling action RPG, and it was done by From Software. So From Software was the developer before they became the massive superstars that they are now with the Souls games and Elden Ring. There was Eternal Ring, which is a first-person dungeon crawler, which is very novel in and of itself. Listening to that premise is quite novel, and it's a very good game. I like it a lot, and I found that the dungeons were too hard for me when I was a kid, but I loved exploring that world that they created for it. It was very light on story, very unique, almost like something you'd see in a Zelda game. I thought it was really good, and the cinematics really blew me away at the time, because a lot of early PS2 games were showing off what the new system was capable of in terms of the cinematics, and I thought it was really spectacular. So, had included Eternal Ring on this list at number 17. Number 16 is God of War Chains of Olympus. This is the prequel to the God of War series that released on the PSP, and I believe it was the first God of War game that I completed, and I love the series of God of War, the original series, more than the new series. And I was debating whether I should include God of War 3, because that is a very great game as well. But I wanted to include Chains of Olympus due to the fact that it was this massive, big budget PS2 game that you could put in your pocket. And I really did amaze me at the time when I played it. And it's a really good game. And it's got that traditional God of War combat that is so smooth that you'd expect from the series, and was really just a joy to play. So I had to include God of War Chains of Olympus on this list at number 16. Number 15 is Marvel's Spider-Man. I really do like Spider-Man as a character. Grew up watching the Sam Raimi movies and really loved those. And the subsequent iterations of the character cinematically I've always enjoyed, such as Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. And I really got to applaud Insomniac for really making you feel like Spider-Man. That's the greatest accomplishment that I can give to this game, is that you feel like you're the web slinger swinging through New York and fighting crime. Did I say New York? I meant New York. God damn it, Smoggy. New York, god damn it. What are you talking about? But yeah, it's a great game. Makes you feel like the web slinger, fighting crime, swinging through the city, free roaming, that beautiful state, and I really loved it. And I still got to play Spider-Man 2, but I did Platinum Marvel Spider-Man and Miles Morales. So I've got Spider-Man 2. When I get a bit of time, I will play Spider-Man 2. And I'll be looking forward to checking that game out, definitely. Number 14 is Heavy Rain. This is the narrative adventure game from David Cage that came out in 2010 and really revitalized the adventure game genre. I feel like we didn't get a lot of point and click narrative games before this in a long time, and I think this brought them to prominence again, because after that we get the Telltale series and all their different games that they bring up and release. So I think Heavy Rain has to be credited for sort of revitalizing that genre to a certain extent, and I really did love Heavy Rain. And when you reflect back on it, it may not have been a game that had the best acting or the best story, but at the time it was very novel and it felt like you were within the story, and it's got some really great twists and turns in it, and it's nothing in comparison to what you get from Naughty Dog nowadays, but at the time I think we weren't getting games that were narrative driven as frequently, and I think this was very strong within the time period that it was released, so I had to include it here. Heavy Rain, really good one. Number 13 is Horizon Zero Dawn. So this is Guerrilla's first third-person action RPG, and I actually started playing this when I first got my PS5. It was one of the games that was already on my account that I had on there, and really did have a great time with Horizon Zero Dawn. It's got a really great combat system, a really great premise. It's a dystopian world that is overrun by mechanical dinosaurs. That is such a cool premise, and especially for someone like me who loves dinosaurs, absolutely adore dinosaurs. I think they're absolutely awesome, and have thought so since I was a kid. So that was such a great idea, and I loved playing Horizon Zero Dawn. And I wasn't a big fan of the sequel. I liked it, but I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was the perfect size. It wasn't too big, and I think the sequel got too bloated. And I did end up finishing it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. So that is Horizon Zero Dawn. Very well done to Guerrilla for doing something that's completely different, because they were known for their Killzone series, and they really showed that they were capable of so much more with this game, and I gotta applaud them for that. So well done to Guerrilla, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn at number 13. Number 12, we've got Demon Souls. So this is the remake of Demon Souls I'm including in here, because I did play the original Demon Souls when that came out, and I did like it quite a lot, but I found it, big surprise, difficult, and I couldn't get past that second boss. I think the big knight that you fight in Boletaria, that big massive giant of a knight that you fought there, I could not get past him, and then I put it down and didn't play a Souls game seriously until this one 10 years later, and I really love this game. I love Bluepoint as a developer. I think they do really great remasters and remakes. I think they are probably the best at it. I mean, the remakes and remasters they've done, because they've done Shadow Colossus remake, they've done the God of War remasters, the Metal Gear Solid remasters, the Uncharted remasters, and they've just done a really great job of preserving some of these really amazing games from PlayStation's legacy, and I think they've done such an incredible job there, and one of the best looking PS5 games. Still, I'd say it's really got an amazing sense of atmosphere, and the detail to the environment is almost unparalleled. It's really quite incredible what they've done there. But Bluepoint are really amazing, and I believe Sony purchased them, which is a really great move on Sony's part. So I can't wait to see what they do next. Selfishly, I want to see them remake another game that will show up later on this list, but we'll talk about that later. I gotta keep you guys in suspense, I gotta do it. Gotta keep watching, But that is Demon Souls. Really great game. Try it if you haven't. It may not be for you, as a lot of the Souls games are not for everyone, but if you enjoy it, that is really great. So that is Demon Souls. Number 11 is Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush is a third-person action-adventure game that is essentially a superhero game developed by a Japanese developer, Sony Japan, and it's done by the original creator of Silent Hill, and he did a really great job with this game, Gravity Rush. Like I said, it's a Japanese superhero game, and you're sort of shifting gravity as this character Kat, who's got amnesia and she doesn't remember quite what's happening, but she's in this world and has to help out the various townsfolk and complete various tasks. And it's a really great game. The gravity shifting mechanics are really fun to play with, and the traversal is so fun. And another reason I wanted to include this game on this list is that it's my first platinum trophy. So I always remember that that is the first game I've got a platinum trophy for, and it sticks in my mind because of that. And I had a great time with Gravity Rush, so I had to include it on this list. That is a Gravity Rush. Number 10 is Death Stranding, the original game from Hideo Kojima, legendary Hideo Kojima. First outing after his departure from Konami. And this is a bonkers game. Absolutely bonkers in the best possible way, and you'd expect nothing less from Kojima. He does make some very crazy games, and I love him for it. I love his sense of humor, sense of style, and storytelling. And this is a game where you're playing a courier delivering packages across America, and it's something that can be seen as quite monotonous to a lot of people. But I really applaud Sony for greenlighting this, because this is not your traditional blockbuster video game. It's not what you traditionally think of when you think of the big blockbuster video game that is going to be a game that was released under the PlayStation Studios banner. But really like Death Stranding a lot. Story is brilliant. Once you really get into it, the science fiction narrative is really strong, and it is one that I thoroughly enjoyed. Was really captivated by it at the end, and it's got a really great sense of style, like a lot of Kojima games do. And I really did love my time with Death Stranding. So that is that at number 10. Number 9 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This is a game I played this year, and I completed it this year. I played it previously but never completed it before, but I completed it this year, got the true ending to the game, and I'm going to be giving a spoiler to this game if you've not played it. I was able to invert the castle and was able to do that, and that is how you get the true ending. So you have to progress through the castle in its inverted form to get to the true ending of the game, and I did that and really loved it. It's a game that is at its core a video game, and it's the best at that. It really has great mechanics, really fun, and it's a gamer's game. It's a game that really does have a strong gameplay loop, and it's really fun, and love the music, love the design of the world. It's a brilliantly designed map, and really great game. Classic game that a lot of people have played. So I'm sure a lot of you have already played this, because it is one for the history books. So that is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Number 8 is Sky Odyssey. Again, with the PS2 games, this is a PS2 launch era game that is a flight simulator that takes place in the Hebrides, and it's a really fun game. It's got a great soundtrack. It's not got a strong narrative. It's not really got a narrative that's at the forefront. It is to do with the gameplay, and the gameplay is just so fun. I found it really fun. It's arcadey. I played it quite a bit with my granddad, and that's a lot of the reason why it's on this list, and it sparks great memories with my granddad, who's no longer here, but it just really did have some great memories for me with that game, and it's one of the few games that he and I bonded over, and that is a big part of the reason why it's on this list, and I always remember that. And the gameplay is also really great as well, so I've played it a lot and just find it really fun. So that is Sky Odyssey. Great game. Number 8 for the PS2. Number 7 is Stellar Blade. Very recent game, Stellar Blade. Came out this year, and a game that is inspired a lot by Nier, and I know the creators are on quite friendly terms, so they do go back and forth with each other. So there's a lot of influence from Nier, and it's got a very similar plot where you're this elite soldier deployed to Earth to take out this race of creatures that are ravishing the Earth, and these creatures are called the Naytibas, and you're Eve, part of the airborne squad sent to destroy these Naytibas. And it's not got the strongest narrative, but it's got an amazing sense of style, got a really great gameplay, and the music is so good. I listen to the music so often for this game, and I really did enjoy listening to it while I was playing it, and it really does blend with the world really well, and loving my time with Stellar Blade. Just a joy to play. Feels like a PS3 game, quite honestly. It's a throwback to the games of the PS3 generation, and it's not a game that is 80 hours long, that is a game that got a massive amount of different maps to explore. It's very curated, and that's what I love about it. It really respects your time in that way, and I think it's a really great game. Very beautiful game as well, and can't wait to see what Shift Up does next. I hope they do a sequel to this game. I'd love to see more within this world, see if they can iterate upon this first entry. So, would love to see what they can do there. So that is Stellar Blade, number 7. Number 6 is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Love the Uncharted series, and I think Uncharted 2 was really where the series solidified itself as a really amazing series. And I think this is where a lot of people start with Uncharted. I did start with Uncharted Drake's Fortune, but I know Uncharted 2 is the one that really made the series more mainstream, and it had these amazing set pieces and these incredible graphics that were the best at the time on the PS3. I don't think you could have seen better on the PS3 at the time in 2009. And it's got an amazing train level that blew my mind at the time. The moving train level where you're fighting different enemies and you're on this level that's constantly shifting. I think that was something that was so spectacular and really did impress me at the time, and I loved the series ever since. Even though I did like Uncharted Drake's Fortune, the first one, I really became a big fan of it at this point. So that is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves at number 6. Right, so we're going to get to the top 5 now, and these are the ones that currently I believe are my favourite games of all time on the PS3 in terms of exclusivity. And number 5 is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. So this is the second entry in the Metal Gear Solid series, and it's a game that divided the fan base in a way that was similar to The Last Jedi. And I love this game. I think I love the bold risks that it takes. It really did risk alienating the audience in a lot of ways, because it did change the character that we love from the first one, who is Solid Snake. And it introduced this new character, Raiden. And I like Raiden quite a lot, but I do know that people are not the biggest fan of him. But I do like him. And I think it's got a really intelligent story that is really eerie, very topical right now, and very timely. And Kojima has always been very prophetic with the way that his games are told narratively, and they always tell you something that's going to happen in the future. He's very good as a fortune teller. He's quite adept. So I had to include this on the list. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, really amazing game and something that's so impressive, and I love my time with Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Number 4, another very divisive game, arguably more divisive, and that is The Last of Us Part 2. To me, this is one of the greatest games of all time, and it's one of the few games where I was playing it and I was just so captured by it that I couldn't stop playing. I have told the story before where I was playing this on a weekday in the night, and I was starting Abby's side of the story, and I could not stop playing it. I absolutely could not stop playing it, and I played it the whole night without going to sleep, and it really did capture me in a big way. And it's a game I think about quite a lot, and it's got some really great moments in the narrative. I'll avoid spoiling it, but it's a phenomenal game that's really fine-tuned the gameplay of The Last of Us Part 1, and really did take some bold risks with the narrative, and I do appreciate it for that. And I think Naughty Dog are one of the best in the business, quite honestly, in terms of telling the stories and developing the characters. And I think they've also got a real knack for creating really smooth and amazing gameplay. And I love my time with Last of Us Part 2, so that had to be included on the list here. So that is it at number 4. Number 3 is Shadow of the Colossus. and I really adore this game. This game is very important to me, as it did inspire my creativity a lot as a kid. This game, and I loved interpreting what happened to the world that you exist within the game, the Forbidden Lands. What happened here? How did it get to this state? And who was Dormin in a previous life, the godlike figure that directs you to defeat the 16 Colossi in this game? And I loved interpreting what happened before and what happened to Wanda, the main character in the game, in the previous part of the story. So I loved interpreting what happened to all the characters in the world in this game so much. And it's a very simple game where you're defeating the 16 bosses of the game, and there's no NPCs in between them or optional enemies. It is a game that is entirely dependent on you defeating these 16 Colossi to resurrect your loved one. That is the main objective of the game, is to defeat the bosses in order to resurrect your loved one that you've brought here to resurrect. So I love that, and it's one of the most beautiful games of all time. Very unique, like Team Ico's games are, and I think they do not get enough recognition. Like, the designer Fumito Ueda is really a visionary, I think, and I can't wait to see what he does next. I really can't wait to see what next game comes out from him and his team. And I absolutely loved Fumito Ueda, so he had to have multiple spots on this list, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. Next game, another game from Fumito Ueda and Team Ico, which is Ico at number 2. As I said with Shadow of the Colossus, these games inspired my creativity and I loved writing about them. I read the novelization of this game, Castle in the Mist, which is an amazing book that is a great interpretation of the events of the story. It's not canonically true, but it's an amazing interpretation of it, and I loved reading that account. And this is a game that is not as grand or spectacular as Shadow of the Colossus. It is a lot more simple, and it's more akin to the classic Prince of Persia games where you're in a 3D environment. It's a camera that you cannot rotate around your character. It's a fixed perspective that you can slightly pan around within, and you're this young boy called Ico who's trying to escape the castle with this young girl called Yorda that has magical powers. And not Yoda, Yorda with Yorda. So it's not Yoda, it's not a fucking green little man following you around. No, it's Yorda, and it's a really great game, and they don't speak to each other throughout the entire game, and I thought that was so unique and so special at the time and really amazing. And you'll see in the future that a lot of developers really try to replicate that feeling of isolation, like you'll see in Uncharted 2 in a particular chapter when you're with this man called Tenzin and you don't speak the same language. They fully admit that they replicated that from Ico, and From Software have noted that they've taken inspiration from Team Ico for the Souls games, and the isolation that you feel within those games is a feeling that is taken from Ico and the way it's designed. And such a special game, a game that I would love to see remade on the PS5 or ported to the PS5. A way to play it on current hardware would be amazing. I'd love to be able to play this game on current hardware. This is my plea to Sony. I'll probably make some sort of video asking them to do that in the future, but that is for another time. But right now, Ico is a spectacular game. I urge you, please, to play it. If you've not played it, please try this game. And it's got one of the most beautiful pieces of art on the cover I've ever seen, and I got it on my wall at my home. So I absolutely love it, and it's such an amazing piece of art. I'm not there at the minute, otherwise I would show it to you, but I don't have it here at the minute. It's in my home where I'm not at right now. But that is the case with that, and it's such a beautiful game, and a game that is so different from anything that was released at the time, and it's so special. You just think of a game sometimes. You think of a movie, a book, and you really remember being enraptured by the world. And it's a game that is fully immersive, and it's really magical when a piece of fiction is able to bring you into that world like Ico did for me. It's really mystical. It's almost a religious experience. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It truly does feel like that when I was playing it. And phenomenal game. Second favorite PlayStation exclusive of all time, and I had to include it on this list. So that is Ico. Please play if you haven't, and please Sony make a remake or remaster. Okay, I'll shut up about it now. Sorry. Number 1. What is number 1? A lot of people will know this if they know me, and that is Silent Hill 2. Now, this game did come to PlayStation first. It was later ported to other systems, but on release it was a PlayStation exclusive, and the Silent Hill games have that lineage with PlayStation. And the Silent Hill 2 remake that came out recently had exclusivity with PlayStation 5 on console. And this is the greatest survival horror game of all time, in my eyes. I think this game is absolutely amazing, and it's got a story that contained a lot of topics that were taboo at the time in 2001 when it came out. Very few games were speaking about the topics that Silent Hill 2 was talking about, and I'm hard pressed to find a game that was as mature as this at that time. And I really applaud it for trying to push the medium forward, trying to tell a tale that was inspired by the Dostoevsky novel Crime and Punishment. The story is very heavily inspired by Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, and such an amazing game. Simple premise where a man receives a letter from his wife and goes to the place to try to find her, despite the fact that she's been dead for several years. And it's such a simple premise, but it makes you want to find out what is actually there. Why is this man drawn to this town to find out what happened to his wife when he knows fully well that she's dead? And that's the premise of the game. I won't spoil what happens, but that is the premise, that his wife has been dead for 3 years and he's gone there to find her. And nothing particularly spectacular about the gameplay, but it's the world, the music, the story, the characters, and that's something that speaks to me quite a lot when I feel the atmosphere of a game. And I remember the time when I played it, and I distinctly remember first finding out about this game through a PlayStation 2 DVD that belonged to a family member. And when I saw it, I thought that one of the characters within the game, Maria, was actually Cameron Diaz. I thought it was like a Cameron Diaz movie because she looked exactly like her. I was like, oh, what's this? And I watched it, and the trailer shows this murky figure rowing across a lake, and you've got this woman speaking, "In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill." And then she says that you promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, and I'm waiting for you. And then you see the title show up, and then the trailer starts, and then it plays, and I saw these amazing cinematics, and I found out that the game is from 2001, as it was several years old by the point, and then so this looks so amazing. It's unbelievable that this is from 2001, and just such an amazing game. And the remake is really great as well, and would love to see this also ported to PS5 because it's stuck on old hardware, but a classic like this deserves such great treatment. And it's crazy that we don't have this, but we have Mr. Mosquito on PS5. As much as I enjoyed Mr. Mosquito, it would be great to see the true classics really get the port treatment to PS5, the current hardware, so they're more readily available and they're more conveniently accessed. I'd like that quite a lot. And Silent Hill 2 is the best game in the series, and I do love Silent Hill as a series, but I do think this is clearly the best game. The best they've ever done. And they've always been trying to recapture that magic that they concocted with Silent Hill 2, and they've not been able to do it, but I'm hoping that they will, and they'll find out that the goal is not to try to recapture that particular game, but try to tell new stories in this world that elicit similar feelings. So Silent Hill 2 is absolutely phenomenal game that I got a lot of nostalgia for, and it's my favorite PlayStation exclusive of all time. And it was really hard for me to choose between Ico and Silent Hill 2 because they are very close together. They're very close together in my mind, so I really did have a hard time picking them. But currently, it is Silent Hill 2. But they're always neck and neck, Silent Hill 2 and Ico, because they both mean so much to me. And I really do have a soft spot in my heart for them. But that is it, guys. This is a video response to Donald Mackerel Gaming, a very great YouTuber whose channel I'll link in the description. But yeah, guys, that is the PlayStation exclusives that are my favorite of all time. So let me know what some of yours are. I'd love to hear them. And really do thank you for watching this video, guys. And I also want to say I may possibly put these videos on a gaming channel, but I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking about doing that possibly, but I'm not sure quite yet. But that is something that I'm thinking about. But really do appreciate you watching, guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon. So you take care, smugglings, and I will see you soon.